me today. I truly appreciate it. As my dear friend Eric Richardson just stated, I am the House District Representative for House District 62, South Fulton and Douglas County. And I'm proud to be here to speak about why we and about why Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was in Memphis, Tennessee in April of 1968. The answer is very simple. He was fighting for workers. Dr. King was in Memphis fighting for 1,300 African-American sanitation workers who were themselves fighting for higher wages, a safer workplace, and to have the right, the sacred right to organize as a labor union and to have their labor union that they chose to be recognized by the citizens, the city of Memphis. The labor strike was initiated and fueled after 2 African-American sanitation workers were crushed to death by trucks, trash sanitation compactors. They were trying to get out of the rain because they had no shelter. And where they kept those trash or sanitation trucks were called the barn. And the barn was called the plantation. Because those African-American sanitation workers didn't even have shelter over their heads to get out of the rain and the weather. So Dr. King, after spending more than a decade dismantling segregation and fighting for voting rights for African Americans and people of color in this country, Dr. King turned his focus against poverty and started fighting and messaging for social economic justice in this country. So we're one of the organizers, the key organizers, Pastor Jones, Rev James Orange Jr. of Memphis Sanitation Workers Strike called Dr. King to help strategize and raise the morale of the striking sanitation workers. Dr. King answered that call and left his home in Atlanta, Georgia, to go to Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King saw this as an opportunity to not only help the sanitation workers in Memphis, but also to jumpstart his newly developed Poor People's Campaign. The Poor People's Campaign was created to fight for better housing, to fight for higher wages, to fight for safer workplaces, and to also fight for equally funded public schools in underserved and underprivileged communities. Now, to my friends and allies and partners in organized labor gathered here today and virtually, now don't this fight sound familiar? Yes, because this is the same fight for social economic justice that's fought every day for Georgia workers and working families by the Georgia AFL-CIO, by the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council, and by organized labor across the state. My friends and allies and partners in organized labor, we must continue to stand strong and resolved in our fight against economic oppression. We have to stand with Dr. King and his dream. We have to stand with Rev James Orange, who is a legend in not only one movement, but 2, labor and the civil rights movement, to continue their fight. Because when we have the majority party at the State House, the Gold Dome, putting profits over people during a COVID-19 pandemic and not protecting them, that's a problem. When you can go to a coffee shop and have to pay $7.25 to get a cup of coffee, not only in Atlanta, Georgia, Athens, Georgia, Athens, Georgia, but you're making $5.15 an hour in minimum wages. How are you supposed to live? So what we are going to do as an alliance of labor, faith-based leaders, elected officials with concerned hearts and minds, we will strategize and we will work together so labor will always be empowered and working families and workers throughout this state will be protected. Pass the PRO Act today. Thank you.